Have you ever walked away from someone you loved deeply, only to be met with nothing? No texts, no reaction, no signs that they miss you. And you're left sitting there wondering, how can they act like I never mattered? I'm Jim Rohn, and if you've ever been in a relationship with someone who shuts down emotionally, today's video is for you. Because here's the truth. Avoidants don't chase, but that doesn't mean they don't break. They just break differently, quietly, internally, and usually long after you've already started to heal. You see, avoidantly attached people are wired to protect themselves by pulling away. When things get too close, too real, too emotionally intense, they shut down. Not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much and never learned how to handle it. So while you were pouring your heart out, they were building walls, and when you finally walked away, they didn't stop you. Not because it didn't hurt, but because chasing would mean exposing the very emotions they've spent a lifetime avoiding. But here's what they never expect: your absence, your peace, your quiet decision to stop showing up where you're not being met. That's what shakes them. That's what starts to unravel the emotional armor they wear. In this video, we're going to unpack what really happens inside an avoidant after you leave. The regret they won't say out loud, the loss they can't admit, and why your silence, rooted in healing, not punishment, is what truly cracks the surface. If you've ever felt invisible after giving your all, make sure to subscribe, tap the notification bell, and leave a comment if this message already hits home. Let's talk about what they feel when you finally stop. Let's talk about one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to avoidantly attached people: that they don't care, that they're cold, heartless, or emotionally unavailable on purpose. But here's the truth that most people don't see. What looks like indifference is often a shield, a survival strategy. Not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much and don't know what to do with it. Avoidants often grew up in environments where emotions weren't safe. Maybe no one asked how they were really doing. Maybe they were taught to be strong, stay independent, or don't be too sensitive. So what did they learn? That emotions are risky, that closeness leads to disappointment, that needing someone makes them vulnerable, and vulnerability is dangerous. So now, as adults, when they start to connect with someone deeply, those same fears get triggered, and instead of leaning in, they pull away. Not because you've done something wrong, but because closeness feels overwhelming, even if it's what they secretly want. Here's an example. Maybe you finally open up. Maybe the relationship starts getting real. You think it's a good thing. You're building something. But for them, that's when they start to feel trapped. The fear kicks in. Suddenly they go quiet. They don't call. They need space. You're left confused, thinking, did I come on too strong? Did I mess this up? But the truth is, it's not about you. It's about their wiring. Avoidants are not emotionless. They just struggle with emotions they didn't grow up learning how to process. So when you pull away or the relationship ends, they don't react with big emotional displays. But that doesn't mean they're not feeling something. It just means they're feeling it in silence. Maybe weeks, even months later, when the noise dies down and they realize what they've lost. Understanding this doesn't mean you excuse unhealthy behavior, but it does help you stop internalizing their detachment as a reflection of your worth, because it's not. It's a reflection of their pain. Let's be real. When someone doesn't chase after you, especially after a breakup, it's easy to assume they didn't care. You think, if they truly miss me, wouldn't they fight for me? Wouldn't they at least reach out? But when it comes to avoidantly attached people, the story isn't that simple. The truth is, they don't chase. Not because they feel nothing, but because feeling something actually scares them. To the avoidant, emotional closeness can feel like danger. Vulnerability brings back old fears of being rejected, controlled, or getting hurt all over again. So, even if they miss you deeply, the idea of chasing you means doing something they've spent their whole life avoiding, opening up emotionally and admitting they care. And that, to them, feels like losing control. Here's a real-life example. Let's say the two of you had something meaningful, but over time, the intimacy grew, and so did the tension. You might have started asking for more connection, more presence. They pulled away. Then the breakup came. You walk away, heartbroken. They say nothing. No apology, no check-in, not even a "how are you?" It's heartbreaking, right? But what you don't see is the war going on inside of them. They may be thinking of you, missing the comfort of your presence, regretting the way they handled things, but they're paralyzed by the idea of reaching out, because doing that would mean stepping into emotional vulnerability. And for someone who's used to protecting themselves through distance, that feels terrifying. So instead of showing you they care, they go quiet. They tell themselves things like, "They're probably better off without me," or "If I reach out, I'll look weak." They stay silent, not because they don't care, but because staying silent feels safer than risking emotional pain. And this is the part where people get stuck, confusing fear with indifference. But once you see the truth, you stop blaming yourself. You realize that their silence isn't about your worth. It's about their fear. And that's something you didn't cause. And you can't fix. All right, let's dive back into this. You're pulling back, creating that psychological void we talked about. And trust me, it's working. When you go silent, you're not just stepping away. You're flipping the script on how they perceive you. Let's unpack this a bit more and explore why this absence is so powerful, plus how you can keep it going without losing your cool. Picture this. You've been texting your ex, maybe checking their social media, liking their posts, or even just keeping tabs on their stories. It feels like you're still connected, right? But here's the kicker. They know you're watching. That gives them a sense of control, like they've still got you in their orbit. Now, when you stop, when you go full no contact, delete their number from your recent calls and stop scrolling their feed, that's when the ground shifts. They're left wondering, wait, where'd they go? That's the void we're talking about, a gap they didn't even realize you filled until it's empty. I had a client, Sarah, who was stuck in this cycle with her ex. She'd text him every few days, just checking in, thinking it kept her on his radar. But all it did was make her predictable. When she finally committed to 30 days of no contact, blocked him, stopped liking his posts, the whole deal, she was terrified she'd lose him for good. Guess what? By day 20, he was texting her asking why she'd disappeared. That's the power of absence. It forces them to confront what life feels like without you. Here's why this works. Humans hate uncertainty. Your ex might not miss you right away, but they'll miss the certainty of knowing you're still there, waiting. That's when their brain starts spinning. They wonder if you've moved on, if you're happier, or, here's the big one, if they misjudged your value. This isn't about playing games. It's about reclaiming your power and giving them space to feel your absence. So how do you stick with it? First, focus on you. Fill your days with things that light you up. New hobbies, workouts, or even binge watching a show you love. Sarah started painting again, something she hadn't done in years, and it gave her a sense of purpose. Second, don't check their social media. It's tempting, but it pulls you back into their orbit. Lastly, remind yourself, this isn't about them, it's about you becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need their validation. Keep this up, and that void you've created, it'll start working its magic. They'll feel it, and you'll feel stronger. Here's something important to understand about avoidantly attached people. Their breakdown doesn't look like a breakdown. You won't see them crying on social media. You probably won't get an emotional apology or a last-minute airport scene. Instead, their unraveling happens where no one can see it. On the inside. Avoidants are experts at keeping it together on the outside. They've spent their whole lives perfecting emotional control. That means staying composed, distant, and fine, even when they're not. So, after you walk away, especially if you do it calmly and without drama, it may seem like they're totally unaffected, but the real story is happening under the surface. Their emotional collapse comes quietly, often in waves. It hits when the distractions stop, when there's no one left to blame, when they finally sit alone with the silence they thought they wanted. That's when all the feelings they've spent so long avoiding start to creep in. Regret, shame, confusion, and that deep, aching sense of emptiness they don't know how to name. Maybe they start losing interest in the things that used to excite them. Maybe they check your profile but say nothing. Maybe they feel that tight, restless discomfort every time your name crosses their mind. But they don't know what to do with it, because reaching out means facing emotions they've never felt safe expressing. I've had clients say, "He never messaged me, but months later he brought up things I said almost word for word." That's the avoidant way. They internalize more than they show. They feel more than they express. And often, their breaking point isn't triggered by something you do. It's triggered by your absence and their own unprocessed feelings finally catching up to them. The emotional breakdown of an avoidant doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments of silence, in long nights of what-ifs, in the slow realization that they lost someone who showed up for them in a way they never knew how to receive. And by the time they figure that out, you're already learning how to show up for yourself. All right, let's keep this going. You're in the thick of no contact, and that psychological void you've created is doing its work. Now, let's talk about how your absence isn't just a pause. It's a mirror. It forces your ex to face themselves, maybe for the first time in a while, and trust me, that's where the real shift happens. When you pull back, you're not just creating space, you're holding up a reflection. Think about it. When you were always there, texting, checking in, maybe even bending over backward to keep the connection alive, you were giving them a sense of control. They could count on you to be the constant, the one who'd always show up. But now, you're gone. No texts, no likes, no subtle hints you're still in their corner. That absence shatters their illusion of control. They're left staring at a version of reality where they're not waiting in the wings. And that's uncomfortable. I had a client, Jake, who spent months trying to fix things with his avoidant ex. He'd send long messages, pour his heart out, hoping she'd see his effort. She didn't. She kept him at arm's length, acting like she didn't care. When Jake finally went no contact, not out of spite, but to choose himself, something shifted. He stopped chasing, started hitting the gym, and reconnected with friends. 3 weeks in, she reached out saying, "I didn't expect you to just disappear." She hadn't chased him, but she felt the loss. Why? Because Jake's peaceful absence forced her to confront what she'd been avoiding. The fact that she'd taken him for granted. Here's the deal. Avoidant types, or anyone who thrives on distance, don't usually come running back with grand gestures. That's not how they're wired. But your absence? It's like a quiet earthquake. It doesn't make noise, but it shakes their foundation. They start questioning themselves. Why aren't they chasing me? Have I lost them for good? And the kicker is, you're not doing this to manipulate them. You're doing it because you're done pouring energy into someone who doesn't reciprocate. You're choosing you. So how do you keep this up without second-guessing yourself? First, lean into your growth. Jake found that working out and reconnecting with his buddies gave him a sense of purpose. Find what does that for you. Maybe it's journaling, learning a new skill, or even cooking something fancy for yourself. Second, resist the urge to check on them. One peek at their Instagram can pull you back into old habits. Block, mute, do whatever it takes. Finally, trust the process. Your absence isn't loud, but it's powerful. It's not about them admitting they miss you. It's about them feeling the weight of your choice to prioritize yourself. This is your moment. You're not just stepping back, you're stepping up. That mirror you're holding, it's showing them who they've lost, and it's showing you who you're becoming. As we wrap up this video, I want you to take this with you. Avoidants may not chase, but that doesn't mean they don't feel the loss. They just process it differently, internally, slowly, and often too late. Your quiet exit, your emotional growth, your decision to stop chasing and start choosing yourself. That's what truly stays with them. Not because you tried to make them regret it, but because you finally stopped needing their recognition to validate your worth. Throughout this video, we explored the emotional wall avoidants hide behind, the silent unraveling that happens when you step away, and the powerful truth that your healing doesn't require their apology. It just requires your peace. You didn't need to fight harder. You didn't need to convince anyone. You only needed to return to yourself. Thank you so much for being here. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share what part of this journey speaks to where you are right now. Your voice matters, and chances are, someone else out there needs to hear they're not alone in this too. If you found this video helpful and you want more content that brings emotional clarity, grounded strength, and real tools for healing, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay connected. Until next time, keep choosing peace over patterns, healing over hoping, and always choose you. You're not hard to love. You were just loving someone who couldn't meet you there.